The most valuable thing in advertising is to know exactly what to say to your prospects to get them to buy. But how do you find out those magic words that get prospects to buy with reckless abandon? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you in this episode right now. I'm O Dowd, and this is the Monetizers show that brings you a never-ending supply of the hottest profit-producing tactics, strategies, and secrets from the greatest marketers in the world. When I was 21 years old, I had the opportunity to move from my small hometown in Ireland to Miami Beach in Florida, USA, to essentially work with and live with one of the greatest advertisers in human history. His name was Gary Halbert. And I ended up living literally with Gary Halbert for over 3 years. And during that time, Gary taught me everything he knew about marketing and advertising and life and business. It was an extraordinary experience. Now, there's so many things that I learned from Gary during that period of time, but Gary was big on teaching concepts and principles. And oftentimes he would teach these concepts and principles via stories. And he would tell these stories again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And while, hearing a story for the first time is very interesting and very exciting, hearing it for the 50th time, it gets a little dull and boring and frustrating. But Gary kept hammering the following story into my head time and time and time and time again. And if any length of time passed where he felt like, that story had kind of been forgotten, bang, that story would come back out again and he would force me to listen to it. The following story is one of Gary's favorite stories, and it contains one of the most profound advertising secrets that you could ever possibly learn. And he told me this story so many times and so repetitively because he felt so strongly that the meaning, the concept, the principle that this story had to offer would just transform my career. And upon reflection, nearly 20 years later, I can say that it has been one of the most profound things that I've ever learned. So the story is as follows. There is a beautiful, voluptuous, gorgeous girl in a bar, the type of girl that every guy wants to be with. So as you can imagine, guys are coming up to this girl and they are looking to, get her number and leave the bar with her. So the first guy approaches, and this guy is tall and dark and handsome, and he's visually everything that a woman would like. And he attempts to essentially chat up, and seduce this lady, but she just blows him off, and she blows him off quite aggressively. So this guy essentially walks away, and he's completely and utterly defeated. The second guy comes over, and he is charming, and he is funny, and he is entertaining. Again, another example of, the type of guy that women find very, very attractive. And yes, he makes her laugh, and he's very engaging in conversation and whatever. But when he attempts to, get her number or whatever, again, she just blows this guy off. So a few minutes later, then, another guy, the third guy steps out of his Lamborghini outside, and, he comes in and he's in his Gucci suit and he has the Rolex watch. And this guy is just oozing success and money and power. And again, another classic example of the type of guy that, lots of women would find very attractive. But just like all other guys, she essentially blows this guy off, and, he's totally defeated. So that's how the story goes. One guy after another tries to get with this girl. She just blows them all off. So all of a sudden, the door bursts open, and in walks a man that is the complete polar opposite, of the type of guy that, such a beautiful woman would find attractive. This guy is in shorts and flip-flops, and his physical appearance is nowhere next or near the previous guys that wanted to get with her. And in all ways, this guy was just not the type of guy that you would think a woman like her would be attracted to. This guy walks over, he has a brief little chat, he reaches in, he whispers a few words in her ear, and all of a sudden she comes to life. She jumps off her stool, she links this guy's arm, and off the two of them walk out the door for a night of debauchery. So the question becomes, all of the guys in the bar, their mouths are open. What just happened? So the question becomes, what is it that this guy said to this girl to essentially seduce her and take her home? And what he said was, "I've got cocaine. Want to go party?" And the reason why Gary would tell me this story time and time and time again is because of this concept of the bullseye. The bullseye is essentially what it is that you need to tell your prospect or your customer in order to get them to buy. Because if you know what the bullseye is, then you don't need to be the savviest marketer. You don't need to have the best copy. You don't need to have all the bells and whistles. You don't need to be the tall, dark, and handsome, rich, funny, marketer in the niche, so to speak. You can cut an awful lot of corners and still be hugely successful. So Gary wanted to teach me this concept of the bullseye. Taking the time, putting in the energy, investing the effort to finding out what it is that your prospect needs to hear from you in order to take out their credit card and order with essentially reckless abandon. So what Gary used to make me do in order to find out what this bullseye was, way back in the day, he would essentially get me 100 telephone numbers of customers who bought the product and 100 telephone numbers from customers who did not buy a particular product. And then he would force me to pick up the phone and call all of these people and not get off the phone until I was kicked off the phone or essentially hung up on. I was told to ask a never-ending supply of questions and never hang up until I am hung up on, was essentially the message. And I did this, and it was very laborious. It was very, very painful, but highly educational and absolutely incredible. In fact, within 3 weeks of meeting Gary, I was given a job, and that job was to go sell a product. And it took me about another 3 weeks. I think I'm remembering now, I think it was about another 3 weeks to get through calling all of these guys. And I did it morning, noon, and night. And at the end of 3 weeks, I wrote a sales letter based upon the bullseye that I had discovered. And that was the very first sales letter I ever wrote. I never wrote a sales letter before in my life. And that sales letter went on to generate over $1 million in a single year. It was a very, very successful promotion for the client. And I wrote it all. Gary changed a PS at the end, and that was it. And that was my very, very first attempt. Hence the power of this concept of the bullseye. So fast forward to today, and this modern world of internet marketing that we all find ourselves in, very few people are willing to put in the time, energy, and effort to go call 200 people. That's a very serious time investment, and yet it is profound. If you intend to be a major player in your niche or industry over the long haul, taking the time to do that is what's going to literally transform your ability to create advertising that just outperforms your competitors. But what I have found that works equally as good is a much easier and less time consuming strategy, and that is to create a Facebook group. So I will go create a Facebook ad, and I will essentially find, if I'm getting into a new niche, I will find the top competitor. I will find out what kind of things the top competitor is promising. I will take those promises. I will create a Facebook ad, and I will, essentially create a Facebook group, and I will put about 500 to 1,000 people from Facebook into a Facebook group that are exactly the type of prospect that I am looking for. Once inside the group, I will create frequent pieces of content, and I will deliver value to the group in the form of articles or videos. And along the way, I will ask questions almost on a daily basis. And what I'm essentially looking to find out in order to get the bullseye is, back to kind of a Tony Robbins psychology, people take action based on pleasure or pain. People will take action based on wanting to enjoy some kind of pleasure, or else they will take action based on wanting to avoid some kind of pain. So on the pleasure side of things, what I really want to know is, what do people want, need, and desire? On the pain side of things, I want to know, what are people's fears, frustrations, and problems? So when I know these 6 things, I'm very up to speed on what's going on with this particular prospect. The big thing thereafter that I'm constantly looking for is the dilemma that they find themselves in. I always want to sell to someone who's caught between a rock and a hard place, because someone who's caught between a rock and a hard place is someone who is most urgently in need of a solution. Okay. So I want to find out who is caught between a rock and a hard place, who is forced to take action and purchase a solution. Because if I can just target those people and those people alone, my likelihood of creating advertising that sells at a profit is sky high. So I want to know what people's urgent dilemma is. So as an example, there are 2 dilemmas. Dilemma number 1, a homeowner has a leaking faucet in the kitchen. Drip, 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 drip. That's very annoying. It's very frustrating, but it's not really that big of a deal. I can fix that today, tomorrow, next week, next month. Nothing really changes. However, dilemma number two, in my basement, I have a burst water pipe. And I also have very valuable family heirlooms in my basement. And right now, as we speak, water is gushing out of the pipe, and it is destroying my valuable family heirlooms. So what dilemma is most likely to cause somebody to purchase? It's obviously going to be the second one, which is far more urgent, far more critical to solve. So when we target somebody who has a very, very urgent dilemma, a very urgent problem that needs to be solved straight away, our likelihood of finding somebody who is less interested in comparison shopping, less resistant to price, less resistant to advertising in general, just someone who really urgently needs a solution, if we can target that type of person, and they exist in almost every niche, then our likelihood of creating advertising skyrockets. So if I put 500 to 1,000 people into a group, that's what I'm looking to find. I'm looking to find wants, needs, desires, fears, frustrations, problems, and the urgent dilemma that people find themselves in. There are hundreds of questions that I will ask over a 90-day period. Some of the more popular ones and some of the best ones to know is, why are you in this niche? If you understand why someone is in this niche, you kind of have the keys to the kingdom. Because if you understand why they're in the niche, then you are able to speak to them in such a personal way, you're in such an intimate way, that it will shock the prospect so much and cause them to become immediately persuaded to purchase from you. I did this as a case study for the weight loss industry maybe about 7, 8 years ago. I created a Facebook group in the keto niche, the keto diet niche. And one of the big revelations there that I discovered after asking women, why are you in this niche? A huge portion of women are in the keto diet niche because their husbands insulted their physical appearance. That's what was the linchpin, the springboard for them to get into the niche. The man that they loved, the man that, they married, the man that they had kids with, the man that they gave themselves to, for life, insulted their physical appearance. And it hurt them so deeply and so emotionally that it catapulted them into the niche and catapulted them into taking action. If you study how many diet offers there are out there, you will clearly and obviously see there are none that talk about the seed reason why women are in that niche. And as a result, advertisers are so massively missing out on extraordinary conversion rates by not taking the time to search for this bullseye. So finding out the seed reason why someone is in the niche is a very powerful thing for you to know. And you can only find that out by hearing it straight from the horse's mouth, talking to people in the niche and getting a emotional and deep understanding of what caused them to be here. What experiences have you had in this niche so far? Another very powerful question to ask, because it allows you again to be able to communicate with your prospects in such a powerful and meaningful way that supersedes any other form of advertising that's out there in the niche. Again, to use this keto example, so many women were complaining about getting scammed and ripped off and screwed over, essentially. Like, how valuable is that to know, when you are putting your advertising together? There's so many keto marketers that got into the niche, could not get any sales, could not generate any profits, didn't know why. It's because they didn't understand what was going on in the niche. They didn't understand what the experiences of the prospect was. And as a result, they weren't able to navigate the overwhelming resistance and past experiences and objections that people in the niche had. So what products have you bought in the past? Another incredible question to ask someone. Ask your tribe of people, because if you know what products people have bought, you, number one, know what it is that they're interested in, what they're willing to pay money for. But it goes deeper than that, because you should not position yourself in the same way that those products have positioned themselves. So if you're out there, positioning yourself as just another Me Too type product, a product that people have bought in the past, well, if they're still in the niche, they never got the awesome result that they were looking for. So if they had a bad experience with a product and you come along with your product, but your product is positioned in the very same way, then the bad previous experience that they had just gets transferred over to you. So there's no way you're getting sales if you look like, smell like, taste like an experience that they had that was negative in the past. So you need to know what it is people bought so that you can avoid those, positioning your product and service in that manner. Asking people, how do they feel about their problem? How do they feel about the products that they purchased in the past? How does it feel to be a prospect in this niche? You need to find out what people's primary emotions are, because if you can speak to people on an emotional level, that will be, again, a way to communicate with people that will supersede any and all other tactics and strategies that perhaps other marketers and advertisers are using that, in your opinion, seem more sophisticated than you. I can't count how many times I was, the ugly dude in the bar that went home with the girl, so to speak, in a marketing context. I can't count how many times that I was the less sophisticated marketer in the niche that just knew the bullseye and outperformed other marketers and advertisers that had so many more bells and whistles, so much, like, from a perception perspective, when I looked at them, they were so much more polished, so much more sophisticated. Their copy was better written. Everything looked better. But I outperformed those guys. I literally mopped the floor with them. There's so many more questions to ask, so many other great questions to ask people that give you tremendous insight into who your prospect is, that lead you to creating the bullseye, that allow you to create stories in your advertising that land like lightning in the hearts and souls and minds of the people that you're speaking with. I am going to create a future episode where I talk about how I research markets and create advertising that breaks sales records. So make sure you subscribe and follow and like me and the Monetizers show, and you will get that training and all other tactics and strategies that will be revealed in future episodes. I hope you enjoyed this one. I would love to hear from you in the comments section below. I am there. I will answer your questions. I'm happy to dialogue with you and discuss your own marketing, your own advertising, your own experiences. So don't be afraid to comment below and I will respond to you. By the way, if you liked this tactic, I've got an endless supply of more waiting for you when you go to monetizationresearch.com and sign up for my free newsletter. The newsletter is delivered via email and it's called Monetization Daily. And in that newsletter, I just reveal an endless supply of hot tactics, tips, strategies for generating a lot more sales and profits with your sales funnels and in your business. So go to monetizationresearch.com and sign up for my free email newsletter called Monetization Daily.